So people often ask, what's the best helicopter for a private owner? I think there's lots of different things that we can talk about in relation to that. But probably the few things that come to mind would be something that would be safe. Of course, you want to be in a helicopter that you feel safe in. We'll go over some different details about that. Something that is affordable enough to purchase, but then also affordable enough to own over a long period of time. It's one thing to buy a helicopter and have it be affordable enough when you buy it, but then if it's going to cost you a fortune over the lifespan of when you're flying the aircraft, that's not going to be very helpful for you either as well. Just give me 30 seconds of your time. I want to invite you to the Hill Helicopters exclusive presentation. This is a presentation that Ruben and I do online. It takes 30 minutes and we walk you through all the details, the specs, the performance of the helicopter, as well as the development stage that we're at. And at the end of the presentation, we give you an opportunity to pre-order the aircraft now under special conditions. If you want to book one, just go to hillhelicopters.com/schedule and I'll see you there. And then something that is desirable enough that you actually want to own it. You know, you want to hop in the helicopter on a regular basis, take the family out, whatever you're going to be doing, or if you're using it more for utility purposes, then you want to have something that's going to be useful for that purpose as well. So why don't we go over those different details? I'm thinking specifically about the Hill and why would this be an ideal helicopter for private people to own. So let's talk about the first one, which is the safety. There's so many different things we can talk about that are sort of built into the ethos of this helicopter that make it what I think to be the safest helicopter that's going to be on the market. So we'll start at the top and kind of work our way through it. One of them is the rotor system. So having, first of all, a high inertia rotor system, which we'll talk about in a different video, where you can actually do safe auto rotation. That's a really important one to have. This helicopter has a similar auto rotation capability to that of a Bell 206 Jet Ranger or Long Ranger, so very high inertia rotor system. Also having more than 2 blades, so 3-bladed or 4 or 5-bladed is something that really makes a difference when you're in high turbulent situations, and so you don't have any of the teetering mass bumping issues that you would have with an underslung 2-bladed rotor system. So to me, those are things that I look for in a safe helicopter, and that's a good start of it. When we work down, we can look at the airframe, and we'll get into this into a different video as well. But when we're looking at a fully composite airframe, something that is a strong, robust roll cage around you, that's a really important thing for safety as well. So that's what this helicopter has. Also having a modern digital cockpit that provides a lot of information for you, but in a very simplistic way. And so I think that's something that's been done very well with the Hill digital cockpit, where they've given you the digital experience, but not made it so complex like you're used to with a typical Garmin G1000 or something, where it's more based for a complex IFR multi-engine helicopter or fixed wing. And so we've simplified it and made it a lot easier, and that's going to improve the safety as well. Having a 4-axis or a 2-axis autopilot in the helicopter that's built into it, that's something that's really important, I think, as well, to improve the safety of the pilot, because it reduces their workload in a big way. As we come around to the back, talking about safety, you know, you can come to the very back here, and we have a enclosed shrouded tail rotor. Big safety feature for multiple things, actually. For passengers when they're operating around the helicopter, if they accidentally come to the back, we've got a much safer system back here as well. But also when you're landing the helicopter in off-airport landings, confined areas, etc., having something that's enclosed and not having the ability to hit that tail rotor on maybe a shrub or a rock or whatever happens to be, that improves your safety as well. So there's so many different things that we could talk about that go into this aircraft and details beyond details, but safety is definitely one of them that I consider as sort of a big one, a number one, when we're talking about the overall experience of owning a helicopter. Next one we want to go to is affordability. So affordability of purchasing the aircraft. Now, in the helicopter industry, over the last 40 years, you guys are probably well aware that the prices have been inflating like crazy. And to a point where I think it's quite unsustainable, where general aviation is dying as a whole. People can't afford to buy the helicopters that are on the market today because they're well over $1 million. You know, in this category, the next closest competitor to the HX50 is around $1.4 million. Then it goes up from there, $1.6, $1.8 million. Those kind of prices for a 5-seat turbine they're not sustainable. They don't really make sense. It doesn't allow people to buy them, have a volume of aircraft sold, which makes it hard when the manufacturers are manufacturing small numbers. It's hard to make those prices competitive. And I understand that. So what Hill has done, I think the approach that they've taken that's totally different, is they've decided to vertically integrate the entire project. So everything pretty much from the nose to the tail, minus a few components, are completely built in-house right here at Hill Helicopters in this incredible factory that they have. And what they're able to do, the reason why they're able to accomplish the price point that they are, which is nearly half of that of the next closest competitor, is they take a raw material, which the cost of the raw material is really not that expensive. We're talking about carbon fibers, typical steels, alloys, even when we're getting into the super alloys and things like that, the actual cost of those raw materials is not substantial. And then they add all the maximum value and IP right here on the shop floor. That's these people that are all working behind these doors right now. These people are experienced 20, 30, 40 years in industry. They understand how to make these things. That's the value added. That's the IP, the materials, the equipment, everything that they have to be able to manufacture every single component, which, let me tell you guys, it's an incredible process. I mean, the stack for just the undercarriage of the helicopter of the drawings is this thick. So there's so much that goes into it. The IP is incredibly difficult, but they have it. They've done it. And so adding that IP and that value added here at the factory allows them to make a product that's a premium product, beautiful, luxurious, high performance, everything, but they can give it to you at a price that finally makes sense again. And so, it's nearly half of that of the closest competitor. That's when we're talking about purchase price. And that's a big factor, purchasing the aircraft. The next one is the long-term operating. So when we're operating the helicopter, things that affect operating costs are the cost of the major components. So in a helicopter, typically the major components that you're gonna have to be replacing on a regular basis would be the engine and then the 2 gearboxes. Now, a normal engine for this type of helicopter would cost you $500,000, and it would be due every 2,000, 2,200 hours. You'd have to be replacing or overhauling that engine. For this, it's a 5,000 hour engine, 5,000 hour gearboxes, and those are the only components that actually have a life limit or a calendar limit. And that's a huge factor, and the cost to replace them, because again, they build everything in-house, the cost to replace them, you're looking at probably around $150,000 US dollars to replace your engine and gearboxes after 5,000 hours. That's nearly double that of all the competitors in the same sort of category. That's a huge factor when we're talking about long-term operating costs. Everything else is on condition. These composite rotor blades, they have a life expected lifespan of about 15 to 20,000 hours. They're on condition, so as long as they're still in good condition, you keep operating them. Everything else on the helicopter is on condition, so it's long life components. And so when we're talking about the cost of the overhaul for those components, whatever time interval that happens to be, that's a very, very low cost overall. And we'll do an in-depth video, I think, of the operating cost of the helicopter. I don't want to get too much into detail in this video, but I think that's an important factor when we're considering long-term ownership. And then also, because of those factors that I just mentioned, because the helicopter has long life components, and because of the helicopter being a high quality build and not having any of those calendar life items, it means that over the length of the life of the aircraft, it doesn't have that same depreciation that it would if there was major things to it, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, etc. And so you can have the helicopter sitting in your hangar, and in 5 years, the value of that helicopter has not really depreciated unless you've flown it a lot of hours. And so that's a really important factor as well. So when we kind of combine all those things together, those are kind of the nuts and bolts, the nitty gritty of owning the helicopter. But then I think when we go to more of a feeling, an aesthetic point of view, what makes private ownership of a helicopter something that's really desirable? I think it's something that you would want to have in your hangar. It's something that you would want to have next to your supercar or your whatever it happens to be, and you want to actually go flying in it on a regular basis. You'd want to invite your friends, you'd want to take your family, and they'd actually want to go flying in the helicopter. So a modern design, sleek on the outside, beautiful on the outside, but then on the inside, something very similar to what you would have in a very high-end vehicle, right? So we've got the comfortable leather seating, we've got all of the comforts that you would expect from a normal high-end vehicle, and it feels just like you're hopping in the car and you're going to go for a Sunday drive or something like that. And I think that's really important from the pilot's point of view, that modern, that luxury sort of feel. And it's also important from your passenger's point of view. It also improves the perceived safety. So it's not, nice leather seats and nice flooring and, nice cockpit and etc. Doesn't necessarily improve the safety, but it improves the perceived safety. And that's important when you're taking your wife flying, when you're taking your friends flying. If they're hopping in the helicopter and it feels really sort of high-end and quality, high quality, they get that comfort and feeling of knowing, yeah, this must be a really well-built helicopter, which it is on the back end, but the feel of it makes them feel comfortable as well. And I think that's an important factor for the whole thing. So I could probably go on for quite a bit longer, but I just wanted to give you guys a few things that I think are important for private ownership and what makes a helicopter desirable to own as a private aircraft. So hope you enjoyed it. We're going to talk to you on the next video.